How to subtract whole numbers. Made easy. Example number 1. We have 893 minus 52. Whenever we're going to be subtracting numbers, we're going to treat each column independently. Let's look at the first column. We have a 3 and a 2. All we do is subtract 2 from 3. So 3 minus 2 is going to give us 1. Now that column is complete. Let's look at the second column. We have 9 minus 5, which is going to give us 4. Now, looking at our third column, we only have an 8 on the top and nothing below it. That means we just bring it down to the bottom. Like that. So our final answer is 841. Example number 2. We have 81 minus 63. Let's look at each column independently. Looking at the first column, we have a 1 and a 3. Since the 3 is larger, what we need to do is borrow. And if we're looking at the 1, we're going to borrow from the number next to it, which in this case is the 8. And the way we borrow is essentially we're going to be taking 10 from the 8. However, all we do is we subtract 8 by 1, which is going to give us a 7. Now, that 1 that we subtracted, we're going to put that in front of the 1 here. So this number is going to cancel, and now that's going to become 11. Now let's look at the column again. We have 11 minus 3. That's going to give us 8. Now let's look at the second column. We have 7 minus 6. That's going to give us a 1. So 18 is our final answer. Example number 3. We have 7,631 minus 152. Let's look at the first column. We see that the bottom number is larger than the top number. That means we have to borrow. So we're going to borrow from the 3. Borrowing 1 from the 3, that's going to make this a 2. Now, this 1 is going to become an 11. Let's look at the column again. We have 11 minus 2. That's going to make 9. Now, let's look at the second column. We have 2 minus 5. The bottom number is also larger than the top number here. That means we have to borrow again. We're going to borrow 1 from the 6, which is going to give us a 5. And now, this 2 becomes a 12. Let's look at the column again. We have 12 minus 5. That's going to give us 7. Let's look at the third column. We have 5 minus 1. That gives us a 4. And now, looking at the last column, we only have a 7. That means we just bring it to the bottom. So 7,479 is our final answer. Example number 4. We have 900 minus 174. Let's look at the first column. We see that the bottom number is larger than the top number. That means we have to borrow from the number next to it. Also, we see that we can't borrow from a 0. That means we're going to have to borrow twice. So let's start from the 9. We're going to borrow 1 from the 9. That's going to become an 8. Now, this number next to it is going to become a 10. Like that. Now, we're able to borrow from the 10 if we're still looking at the first column. So, we're going to borrow 1 from this 10 here, which is going to give us a 9. And now the 0 is going to become a 10. Like that. Now we can go ahead and look at this column again. We have 10 minus 4, which is going to give us 6. Looking at the second column, we have 9 minus 7, which is going to give us 2. And then the third column, we have 8 minus 1, which is going to give us 7. So 726 is our final answer.